Got a filthy paver brick driveway that needs serious TLC? Stubborn oil stains driving you crazy? In this video, you're getting the A to Z guide, powerful pressure washing techniques, proven oil stain removal, and a perfect seal for a lasting beauty. And I'll show you exactly how to dodge those frustrating rookie mistakes that everybody makes. By the end of this, your driveway will thank you. Rookie mistake number 1 is using an electric power washer to clean your driveway, and virtually 100% of the people do this. I've even been guilty of this. Is people think that an electric pressure washer is going to effectively clean their driveway. And while it might get up some of the black dirt and the mold and other things like that, it will often leave many other stains behind that a much higher powered pressure washer would easily pick right up. Now, if you don't have a pressure washer, the answer is simple. You're renting. And anyway, I think you should always go out and get the 4,000 PSI Pro gas powered, because those are the most powerful. They have the 4 gallons per minute. Now, GPM is your most important number. And when you compare this, for example, to the 3,500 and the 3,200 PSIs, you can see how much more water these machines can throw at that concrete and get all of those stains out. And it can even reduce the oil stains quite a bit too. The 3,500 is about as low as I would recommend going, because look, your gallons per minute is 2.4 to 2.8. 3,200s, I've seen people use those in the past, and they seem a little bit weak. They're just not up to the task, in my opinion. And anything below that, like the 2,900s, don't even waste your money, because you might as well be renting an electric. And the electric power washer, you can see here, 1.9 gallons per minute. It's significantly weaker than any of the other, which is why, as I showed you earlier, they don't do as good of a job cleaning the surfaces. And then make sure you rent a surface cleaner like the one you see here in the picture. You should be able to rent everything for about $150. This driveway has a lot of oil stains that we need to get up, so we're going to see which products work and which doesn't. And then it has some black stains here that all of that needs to come off. This needs to be perfectly clean before we seal the driveway. So here we're going to try some regular soap, and we'll just spray it on here. Keep it nice and wet before we start up, and just let it soak for a few minutes. And we just want to see if this will loosen up some of that oil, so that by the time we apply this 4,000 PSI pressure washer, which is probably around 4 gallons per minute, we'll see if this will have any effect on the oil stains. You want to work on one area at a time, since this is the most important thing to clean off of the driveway. So I'm just making sure this is all saturated with soapy water. And then we'll go ahead and try just this one area first, and we'll see if it makes a difference. And then right before operating the pressure washer, we'll come and spray it one more time to make sure that it is still wet and saturated with the soap. Now you will notice I always start at the top of the driveway. You want to start at the highest point, because everything is going to flow downward. And you don't want to start at the bottom and do all of that work and then go above it and have all that dirty stuff come right back on to where you just worked. So you can take a few seconds to get accustomed to the machine and see how much dwell time you need on each spot before it gets clean. And then I like to start over in the corner there. I'm going to work my way over here. And you just start doing short vertical stripes. You go up and back, and you go real slow. And I always like to make my adjacent stripes overlap, kind of like when you're doing the lawn. This way here, you won't see any of the stripes or anything that a lot of alleged professionals even do. We see it all the time on the sidewalks in our neighborhood. So just take your time. Go nice and slow at a decent speed, a well choreographed speed. If you can have somebody hold the hose behind you, that works even better. They'll move forward when you move forward, and they'll move back when you move back. But see, I just come straight up and back each lane that I create, and then I'll move it over a little bit and go to the next lane. I usually don't put down soap in the other areas, because I find that the higher pressure is able to just clean it anyway without the use of soap, and it's easier to see. And then when you're done, you simply use the power wand and you hose down the whole driveway. You start at the top and you work your way down to the bottom. And you just continue along the entire driveway until you get the entire driveway rinsed off. See, you want to avoid situations like this, see, where they didn't do a good enough job. If you don't use enough dwell time on your surface cleaner, you'll end up with all of these stripes here like you see here. So this was somebody that was moving too fast. You got to slow it down, nice and easy. See, and then here you can see much more sloppiness right along here too. This area was a lot cleaner, but here they moved too fast. And then as you look down the sidewalk, you can see the streaks here. So it was just uneven coverage. So they didn't take their time to do this right and get even coverage going down the sidewalk with their surface cleaner. See, and here's another embarrassment right here. So this was done by somebody that just clearly was in over their head and didn't know what they were doing. This is rookie mistakes. So it appears to me what they had here was an underpowered machine because it couldn't even clean the stains off of here. But yet it did leave some sort of streaking patterns here, probably because they were just going too fast. So it was probably the same guy that did this sidewalk all the way up here. But then you come to a street like this, and this homeowners association here uses a professional company that really knows what they're doing, and you can see how different these sidewalks are. They're nice and white and clean and even. Now the only kind of discolorations you're going to see here are going to be in the texture of the concrete here. Like some concrete's going to be gray, some will be white. But this company does an overall great job. Yeah, because this contractor here is using all of the right equipment. They are using the professional 4,000 PSI power washers, no doubt, and they're also using the large surface cleaners as well. Rookie mistake number 2 when pressure washing your driveway is using the wand instead of a surface cleaner. You'll be doing it all day. And I can't tell you how many times I've seen guys, professionals, doing the sidewalks like this horizontally, and you're just seeing a bunch of stripes and they didn't even clean it thoroughly. So you're really only supposed to use the wand on the perimeter areas and the nooks and crannies, the spots where you can't get a surface cleaner. Yeah, it looks like it's actually doing a pretty good job of it right there, see? Now these have been there probably for, I don't even, years. Like I don't know when this was ever cleaned. But look at this, see? And let's see if I go back and even widen the turbo a little bit. It's still able to clean it. It takes a little bit longer. You have to dwell on it a little more. But so you find that happy medium of being real close and getting it small and taking longer. Or do you back up a little and let it go a little wider swath and it will still clean it, but it takes longer. And you want to make sure you go slow. You see how I'm going like this? So watch what happens if I race. Zoom. That's what I see a lot. I see so many untalented people pressure cleaning like public sidewalks that look like this just because they're just total clowns and they have no clue what they're doing. And all you got to do is just do it right. The right technique takes longer. But everybody wants to rush, earn that buck and move on. And you should never, by the way, on the sidewalks, it's fine here on the slab. But on sidewalks, you should not be using an attachment like this. You should be using my giant whirlybird attachment that I have, 21 inches wide. Now you might have seen the video I did at my friend Ernie's house a couple of years ago where I cleaned his pool. And I just did it with the electric pressure washer there. And I used the surface cleaner, but you can see it still could have been a little bit better had we spent the money to rent a 4,000 PSI machine. Now here is another example where you can get away with using the electric pressure washer. So this is DeWalt's other unit, their 2100 PSI electric plug-in. And you can see it does a pretty good job here on the Spanish tile roof. And it gets pretty much a lot of it off. But again, the pros are going to use a gas-powered machine with a surface cleaner to clean your roof tiles, but I just wanted to show you here the effect of using the electric. Now if you have time left on your rental, then you can start looking for other areas in your house, like maybe you have a paver brick backyard there and back patio, and you use the same strategy. You just go here, we're going side to side and using overlapping, and we're not rushing, we're taking our time, and we're making sure we have double coverage each time we go over each area. It gets double coverage. And I just simply don't go past an area unless it's completely done. If I have to go back and dwell on an area for a little bit, I will. But don't let it dwell too long. Oh yes, and rookie mistake number 3. I've seen so many people do this over the year, and that is trying to start your pressure washer before you turn on the garden hose. That water has to be on or the machine will not start. And not only that, you have to flush out some of that water by pulling the trigger on either your wand or your surface cleaner to allow some of that low pressure water to work its way all the way out the nozzles and get all of the air out of the system. So here I am simulating here what it looks like when you don't turn on the garden hose. You're going to sit there and be pulling that cord all day long, and it's never going to start. Now, as you can still see, some of the oil stains are a little bit visible, but it's at least 50% better than it was. So I'm going to try this new product over here. It's called Cobble Clean, and it's made by the same manufacturer who makes my driveway sealer that I'm about to use. And this is specifically formulated here to be used on paver bricks so that it can remove even tire marks, but it will soak down into the brick and loosen the oil and make it float to the top so you can just brush it away. Now, normally you would use this before you pressure wash, but unfortunately we found out about this product from the manufacturer after we were done with the pressure washer and we had returned it. It was just a matter of the way the logistics was working and the rush that we were going through that weekend. You can use it concentrated right out of the jug, or you can mix it up to 10 to 15 to 1. That's normal. So I'm just going to use it full strength, man. I'm not even taking chances. I'm going full body on this one. So the way this oil degreaser works is you want to saturate your paver brick tiles with it and let it soak there for about 5 minutes and keep it wet. Do not let it dry in place. And they want you to wait about a minute or so before you start brushing it. So here I'm just coaxing the product into place to allow it to puddle on top of the paver bricks. And then we're going to allow it to soak for a minute. And remember, don't let your product dry on there, because the whole idea is to soak down in and let it allow the oil to float back up. And it may take you 2 or 3 applications before it completely does the job. Next, to remove the oil stains, you diligently scrub it there until you can see it's going away. And really spend some time on those smaller, lighter colored tiles there, because you can see when I start scrubbing over it, I can see it very easily whether the oil is going to come off or not. And this is where you really need to put some elbow grease into it, folks. Don't be bashful. You scrub that sucker hard there and get it in there. Get all that soap down in there. Now I'm going to give it a second application just to make sure that it stays wet and that it's seeping down into the middle of the paver brick to release the oil. And just like the first time, folks, this is lather, rinse, repeat. You want to let it pool up on your tile there, give it a minute or so, let it soak in there, and then you can start your brushing once more. And hopefully each successive time it should bring off more oil. It should allow more of it to float to the top so that you can scrub it off and then rinse it off. I've got this other spot right here that I want to hit up. You can see it right there. This is the time to hit up all of those oil stains all over your paver brick driveway. So I work on one spot at a time and I just wet it down, do all of my scrubbing on there, and then I move off to the next section. Now we won't be able to tell until it's completely dry whether the oil stains came all the way up. That's the way bricks are, you just can't tell till they're dry. Now you can barely see there's a tire mark over here. So we're going to try our luck on this spot too. And here I just kept adding more and more and scrub it around a little more till I see it foam up real nicely over the tire track there. And you can go around and find all of the other oil stains that you can see and try your luck on those as well. So as you can see here, you can still see it just a little bit, but it looks like the oil spots did indeed get a little bit lighter. So I'm going to try just one more application and then that will be it, because it looks like we're reaching the point of diminishing returns. So we lather up and rinse it one last time and let's see how it looks. See, we know that the oil stain should be somewhere right around here, but yet we don't even see it at all. So especially when it's wet, you don't even see it. Before, you could see it even when it was wet, no matter what. You can see that over the years they've lost some of the polymeric sand that used to be in here, so we're left with a gap. So we're going to fill all of this in right here with some of this polymeric sand. And we're also going to fill in a lot of these other gaps that you'll see here on the grout lines, as I call them. Now these are the spaces in between your pavers. Some of them, the polymeric sand is just eroded over the years from the rain, and so we're going to fill those back up to raise the level back up. Polymeric sand is a mixture of regular sand and some polymer additives. So these are water-based binding agents. So once you fill the joints and once the sand gets wet, these latex-based compounds will then form kind of like, almost like an epoxy, but it essentially hardens the sand so it keeps it from moving. So these polymeric binders form a hardened matrix around the sand particles. So it's similar to like a soft mortar. So polymeric sand has advantages over regular sand in that it helps reduce weed growth and ant infestation, and it also helps lock your pavers into place, reducing the shifting of the pavers, and there's less washout than you have with regular sand. It also nicely fills those irregular gaps that you have around the perimeter up against your uneven concrete. Now here, because the gap is so big, I'm going to pour the polymeric sand right into the space there. And then you can either use a push broom or you can use a regular broom to sweep it around. But if you're going to put in large areas of the driveway, it's best to pour it on the pavers and then use the push broom to sweep it all over the place. And then use the regular broom to just kind of sweep it out of the individual grout lines. You're supposed to pile it up so that they come about 1/8 of an inch below the top of the tile. Once you've applied all of your polymeric sand and you're done sweeping, you want to do a real good inspection of the entire driveway. Make sure you did not leave any gaps. Make sure that the sand looks even in all of those grout lines in there, and that it comes up no higher than the bottom of the bevel of each of the edges of those pavers. And I don't waste any of the polymeric sand. I sweep it all over the place and let it just float up to the top of any of the gaps. I don't allow any gaps to be empty. So we're going to try to get in some of the bigger cracks filled in here and all of these other gaps. Another important spot for you to always make sure you fill with the polymeric sand is always along the perimeters. So pay special attention to there and make sure that you don't see any gaps at all. You don't want dirt and ants or anything to be able to access these areas, because then weeds will grow and ants will grow. And I just wanted to remind you once again that sand application is more efficient with a large push broom than it is with a smaller broom. But I realize many of you don't have a push broom, and so it's equally as effective to use a smaller broom, but it will just take you longer. Once you have swept as much of the polymeric sand as you can off of the pavers, you then bring out your blower and you just start blowing it off at a low angle to the ground. Don't angle it like 45 degrees down, because you will blow too much of the sand out of the channels. You just want it to come up to the bottom of the bevel of each of the pavers. So here you can see the sand is just blowing around, and we're getting it all off of the driveway so that when you walk on the pavers, you shouldn't feel it at all. And you can see with the even lighting now, right above the oil text there is where the stains used to be, and now you can't even see them at all. So now you wet it down very gently. You don't want to see huge amounts of runaway because you don't want the sand to wash out. And they want you to use the nozzle on shower mode only. Now the paver sealant I'm using has a part A and a part B mixture, and I'm only mixing up half of the mixture. And the reason for that is because you mix up half of it and you only have a pot life of like a couple of hours. And then you have to let it cure for a couple of more hours, and then you add a second coat going the opposite direction. So you have to save your batches and do them individually. So that's what I'm doing here, and then you mix it up. And this is a water-based sealant. You do not want to use a solvent-based sealant, because those will ruin the surface of your paver bricks in most cases down here in Florida, where it is very humid and we get a lot of rains, and those get into the bricks, and if you use a water-based, it will evaporate nicely. But if you use a solvent-based sealant, it won't evaporate and the water gets trapped under there, and it makes your surface look like white and clammy, and it's ruined many people's pavers. Once your paver brick driveway sealant is mixed up, now you can go ahead and put it into a spray bottle, and you want to just start spraying. I will apply it to about a 10 foot by 10 foot area, pretty much about as much as you can reach with the roller. The idea is to spray it in here with overlapping patterns. You want to get it wet, but you don't want it puddling. So this is about as much as you ever want to see on there. And you just go ahead and overlap them and get the area nicely covered, and you'll see a bluish white kind of a liquid, and it will dry clear, so don't worry about it. There's nothing to panic over. It will dry nice and clear, and you'll see just a nice finish on your driveway. In this case, this is a matte finish. And I like to periodically wet the roller as well to make sure that everything gets rolled nice and evenly. And this actually goes best if you have a buddy with you. So one person will do the spraying while the other person will come behind and do all of the rolling. And it's very similar to painting. You want to get overlapping patterns, and you want to try not to leave any noticeable race marks. Then you just work your way across the driveway, manageable section by section at a time. And this will go a lot faster if you have a buddy helping you. With this sealant, you wait 2 hours, then you apply a second coat 90 degrees from the first coat. Here's what the driveway looks like after the first coat. So it's been curing for about 2 hours, and so now we're going to put on the second coat 90 degrees out of phase from the first coat. So if you remember, on the first layer, we went vertically up the driveway. This time we are going to be traversing horizontally. And so here you can see the power of having that buddy working with you, rolling behind you as you spray. That way it just gets done twice as fast. And then we have time even to do the back patio pavers as well. And this is the way you do it, folks.
This is the way.
This is the way. This is the way.